What if I told you that the entire plot of Rings of Power is spoiled in episode 1 just by the show's theme song? And I'll prove it to you. Composers like Howard Shore can harness the emotional power of musical modes or scales as a way to hack your mind and tell a story without words. When a recurring musical passage gets assigned to a character or plot device, planting musical cues to plot lines and character arcs that a trained ear can easily learn to decipher. To understand why and how composers can sonically manipulate you.
But they were all of them deceived.
Let's take a there and back again journey through Middle-earth to discover how the Rings of Power theme song actually conceals its entire narrative. As I begin my journey through Middle-earth, I arrive at the Shire, a lush, green, quaint, hilly settlement home to the salt of Middle-earth, hobbits. Hobbits are hardy, everyday people living simple lives, where nothing unexpected ever happens. Ever. Except that. It's the perfect setting and character archetype for a straight-ahead Ionian melody. That is the major scale. Howard Shore agrees. He composes this motif in the major scale for a reason. Modes trigger emotion through context. As we grow up, our brains learn to associate certain sounds with feelings relative to our musical cultures. In the West, major modes like Lydian, Mixolydian, and Ionian tend to feel bright, triumphant, or playful, while minor modes like Aeolian, Dorian, and Phrygian have a more melancholy, brooding, or introspective quality. To prove it, let's head back to the Shire. It is the fell winter of Hobbiton, and the Hobbit's theme is rewritten in the Aeolian mode, or natural minor scale. This changes the sentiment entirely. Now that we understand how modes work, let's go back to the Second Age. In Rings of Power, Shore opens the theme with the Lydian mode. Lydian, a major scale with a sharp or raised fourth, is the brightest mode. The raised fourth is dissonant, meaning it longs to resolve to another more consonant note in the scale. In this case, the note that's one half step or semitone above, which is the perfect fifth. This actually pulls the entire scale upwards, perfectly underscoring the race of elves and our hero Galadriel. Immortal, higher beings, mystical, and wise. Shore typically reserves less stable modes like Lydian for higher beings, or those with magical powers. In fact, many composers do. We hear a similarly unstable augmented mode as we arrive amongst the Elves of Eriador in Rivendell. These themes also share rhythm. But back in the Second Age, something interesting happens. The Rings of Power theme takes a quick and sudden turn to Aeolian. But why? Arriving in Gondor, I'm struck by the grandeur of Minas Tirith. The race of men, mortal, prideful, but resilient and ambitious. Men are burdened by the continued defense of Middle-earth and their unquenchable desire for power. And yet they display virtue, heroism, and sacrifice. Their theme is written in the Aeolian mode. In nearby Rohan, the Rohirrim ride to a heroic yet somber Dorian minor modal theme. It's a less moody interpretation of the scale, but bittersweet nonetheless. In fact, Shore typically uses minor modes to score the race of men throughout the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. So, Lydian for elves and the minor scale for men. Surely all of this must be a coincidence, right? Let's see how deep this rabbit hole actually goes. Remember, Rings of Power is set in the Second Age of Middle-earth. An epoch that sees the rule of elves, the rise and fall of men in Numenor, Sauron in Mordor, and finally concludes with
a last alliance of men and elves.
Shore's not just writing a theme song. He's performing a musical sleight of hand that captures the narrative of Middle-earth's Second Age in just a few notes, underscoring the bound fate of elf and man by alternating between their themes. But hang on. What about Sauron? Surely Howard Shore wouldn't spoil Sauron's covert play for power in Season 1. right? Halfway through the theme, the elvish motif repeats, but with a darker minor third interval. A gloomy turn that foreshadows Sauron's coming ascension to power and... Wait a minute.